all over the bay, and we ran out of coffee. The fourth day had started by now. Ran out of water. Ran out of luck. And I was trying to express myself quietly, so got back in to cook something, and I don't know what happened. And I said, this togetherness is going to separate us. I mean, where could you go? You walked so far. Everything you had on there you read already. Everything you cooked was cooked. And there wasn't any water so we came home pretty fast that night. But then I guess the store job and the shrimping.
About writing for the onlooker. And it sounds like you did that from
A long time.
A younger lady on up. How did you get that job?
I wanted to something to be in there, and I wrote an article and sent it, and the manager was Sparky Howell a long time ago. He asked me if I would consider it, and I sent in a Lagoon News in, so I started sending it, and just kind of neighborhood news, and people started telling me they liked it, and he'd give me a present at Christmas time. I got a few nice presents, and then when the Islanders started, they asked me if I would just transfer down here and just have the local news. So I still did that about 10 more years, and it got to be a hassle. I couldn't get it done and get it. It takes time.
Sure.
And so anyhow, I enjoyed that the best of all, I think. Didn't pay much, though.
We all enjoyed seeing our names in there when we'd come visit the ridge.
Yeah. A lot of kids remember that. A lot of people do.
Subscribe to the newspapers just so
you could get there.
And some weeks I wouldn't be in it. Okay, what was my last job? My present job. I cleaned for a long time, and I'd help repair in the spring. I'd wash all the mold off the walls and throw all the beds out to air 'em and everything that went with it, and paint and patch. And if there's a big chip off the wall and you didn't have time to paint the whole wall like it was behind, you put 3 big porpoises or something. I mean, it worked. And you just couldn't go do it every year over and over. But we hung together. And then after Grandma died, the year Frederick, and Bunny went back fishing again. But right away he said, once Lillian said she'd pay us for cleaning the houses. So I said, I don't know about that. She said, I'll give both of you, each of you $100 a week. Well, Bunny said, well, I believe we better take it because I don't know how fishing's going to be. So $100 a week wasn't bad. But you had to work mostly on Saturdays, like fast and good. Bunny was a real good helper, except one night when he busted his head on the air conditioner outside. That was before we got central heat. One of the kids told me he cussed. I'm sure he did. He didn't ever cuss much. Of course, then right at the last time when we went, we were still fishing, shrimping in the lagoon a little bit. We did bait shrimp for a while. And we had gotten up at daylight and gone all the way down Midge Circle and looked for shrimp, and there weren't any. So we came home and had breakfast. And then took a little nap, I think, and about noontime we decided we'd go down in the bay and see what was down there. So we got our gear together, took lunch, stopped by the store to get gas or whatever we needed, and Miss Lillian insisted that Bunny have a root beer. So he got the root beer, and the boat wouldn't get off, the trailer wouldn't go down into the slip because the tide was wrong. And we ribbed the tires and tore it wouldn't work. So finally got the boat overboard and then couldn't get the trailer back out. So we put blanket under the wheels and got it out. And the bunny said, well, he said, we might as well go back home. And I said, well, it's overboard now. How are we going to get it out? I said, we might as well go shrimping. So, okay, we pushed off into the bay about half a mile and set out overboard. And we're just trolling along quietly, but we'd got awful agitated putting it overboard. It just didn't want to do anything. So we were trudging along, and I wanted him to tell me the story about the night that they spent out on a boat that went aground in the Gulf, many, many years ago. And he and his dad had spent the night on it with some other fishermen. Because it got dark, and they didn't want to come back home and go back in the Gulf, so they went on that boat and spent the night. And I wanted to get that story to see, which old boat. So I got my pencil and pad. And he reached the root beer and gave me a sip of root beer, and I took the sip like I always did and handed it back. And I reached down there up in the bow to get my pencil and pad, and when I turned around, he was not standing up. He was not sitting up. He was slumped over the floor, and the engine was still going, and the motor was still going, sure, but it was everything went heavy in the back because he had slumped right down in the back, and the motor was on the back, and the troll boards and all that were overboard pulling. So I know I went and tried I couldn't get him awake, couldn't get him back, and did mouth to mouth, and nothing happened. The boat was creeping along, and about nearly a mile out. So I realized that he wasn't there.
More help than what you could give him.
Well, I knew I had to get some help from somewhere, so we talked about it before more than one time. What would you do? Well, I said I'd cut that sucker loose and I'd head for home. And then I knew I had to put a buoy on it so it wouldn't foul somebody else up, when they were coming along and run into this mess of nets and those doors overboard. So I tied a jug onto it, and then I was gonna turn around, and thank God the engine was still running. But when I went to turn around and rev it up a little bit, I came so near turning over. I still thank God that I didn't, because
you're so scared.
When it did, it was so bottom heavy that it just. I got to the shore, and when I got to the shore, nobody was there, so I tied it up real quick, and I tried the artificial respiration again. Respiration, is that the word? Didn't work, so I started running, and Hazel Norris's dog came running down there because he didn't like me and I didn't like him, but he was woof, 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 this big old dog. And they had on boots, and they were going flop, flop it.
How you made it?
That dog was right at my heels, and she heard that something was wrong by the dog barking, so she came running out, and I said, go call the paramedics, and she did, and I was back there in a minute. She came back and rode down on her. She had a golf cart down there for me to take me, but I had already gone back down there, and hardly before I got there, the paramedics had come. And, of course, I was trying to get him back alive, and they made me quit.
How many years were you married?
Over 50.
How many years were you married?
50, almost 51 at like 2 weeks.
Almost 51. Yeah, I remembered that.
Yep. But then everybody that I talked to said, what a way to go, doing something you love to do.
Yeah, you have to look at
and didn't have any pain or any, and he would have hated to have been bedridden, not talk,
Right.
not be able to
That's what I
talk.
always tell the kids. I
But it
go,
took me a while to,
oh,
Make peace
honey,
with it?
yes.
but I still know God knows what He's doing.
My grandmother always said, when it's your time, you're going to run there. Be there.
Anyhow, Hazel brought me home then, and I called up to Joyce, and she went berserk. But she got up here, and I got ready, cleaned up to go up to the hospital because they had to take him to the hospital. And the Dr. Taylor said it wouldn't have made any difference if he'd have been right there. And you have a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
And that's the end of my story, I think.
Well, what advice would you give your grandkids and the kids to come after them? What things have you picked up along the way, and what did you learn from Uncle Bunny that you'd want?
Patience and love. He had plenty of both. One of the kids said they saw him jump up and down one time, and I said, yeah, well, he's done that a few times, I guess. But he was always
Sweet and kind.
Patient and good. And good to his mother. Because in the evenings, she stayed with us the last 10 years. And he'd sit on the couch while I was getting supper and play the harmonica to her and talk to her. And one night she said, her eyes had watched me go to the table and go to the stove and go to the table, and I had dinner ready, and she looked at him and she said, I wish you'd marry that girl. And just,
Thank you, Mom. Say thank you, Mom.
yes, because she sure wasn't happy when we got married, I know that.
Yeah, I know you weren't. It was like they didn't like my mama either.
Yep, just about.
She was the dumb honky.
Over the years, what role has faith played in your life?
Mega.
They get all crippled up.
Because I knew not doing these things by yourself. And my mother was very religious and faithful, like this is Holy Week. And if she'd get hurt or burned or something, and we'd say something about the pain, she'd say, I've not suffered like Christ did until you suffer like that, But we got the message.
Yeah. How do you picture heaven?
Peace. I just picture peace. I don't think about it as being a holy meeting place and happy dancing and stuff. I just never did. Because I've been so close to death 3 different times from drowning that it's nice. I mean, you just have gone away. Of course, I didn't go all the way, but I was enough to know that it was nice.
What's your favorite color?
Green.
Green, like your pants.
No matter what color, just so it's green. And when you look out the window in the mornings or in the evenings of the spring or the fall, you can see at least 10 colors at one time. Soft to the darks to the from a new baby to a, and then the sea some places is green. Just always loved it.
Now you've traveled a lot of places, all over the country.
I've been lucky. I have.
If there was anywhere that you could travel with all expenses paid that you haven't been, or maybe somewhere you'd like to return, where would it be and why?
I almost got there last year. To Budapest.
To Budapest.
Well, not exactly Budapest, but just in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda almost went with me last year. We talked about it because Lauren had been, and she said, Aunt Midge, it's our turn. So I sent her the information, and so she sends me a Hungarian calendar. It was neat. It told a lot of things. And we still talk about it.
So, do you know anything about the hometown that the Hermitses came from?
Not a whole
Hungary?
bunch. It was a small village, and this girl that writes in that thing, the book,
Mhm.
I'll let you know about it, and if you know, we'll all pass it around and read it when I finish. But they're small places.
What was the name of it?
Mali Ijush.
Mali Ijush.
That was a big city part, but the little thing was, and they told me yesterday, a girl told me that it didn't mean Little Hill particularly because uh, it was Kish Hedgesh. Well, that's a hill is like a mountain, and the girls told me Sunday that it was not a mountain at all. It was just a little hill. And like the time we took Joy out to meet Dick in Denver, we said, how would we know when we got to the mountains? And he said, you'll know. Well, we got to Oklahoma. We saw these big mountains, you know, and in the morning it was so exciting, and Joy said, getting happy. Well, we knew they weren't big mountains, but we ran like two nuts, and Bunny took our picture. We stood up on top of this hill and were waving.
Thought you had found the mountain.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, not quite.
When we got to Denver, we knew. So that night I got to, of course we left Joy and Dick alone. Their neighbors upstairs, they had the downstairs apartment, the neighbors had upstairs. And they invited us to go to the Mile High dog track.
Oh, wow.
So we did.
See the sun, see the wind.
Okay.
What about Panama?
Panama. I guess the first big trip that I had taken. The first trip was when we went to Ohio to see the cousins, and Bunny was taking me up there because he said he'd have to be going in the service, and he wouldn't have a chance to take me anywhere. So we went up on the train, and then we stayed in Ohio about 2 weeks, and then we rode the bus from Ohio to Detroit. And then we visited Elizabeth and Joe and Josephine. And that was lovely. Got to see and learn a lot of things and see my family. So then when we got back, he didn't go to the Army. They told him he'd do more good here fishing than he would. They didn't need him. And the guy at the induction center knew the family, and he said, don't leave your wife and kids. And my two brothers had said the same thing. They said, don't do it. Stay there. Take care of my sister. They really did. So he worked at the shipyard then to compensate. And then they said fishing got better. And the first ship that they turned out, the one that he'd worked on, they got it outfitted out and it got sunk. He didn't remember the name of it, and I'm sorry that I didn't know it, but it hadn't gone about halfway across. So that was heartbreaking. Well, I went with Chan to Panama because we had planned to go there one time, and I didn't want to do anything, you know. It was just
Too recent,
yeah.
the loss.
So we flew, and going over the Caribbean, it was just absolutely something else. And having not flown but a little bit, then we stayed with her kids. It was some kind of exciting trip because we got to the airport and I knew no Spanish at all. Well, she was fluent in Spanish, but she got right on through, and when it got my time, the guy couldn't understand me and I couldn't understand him, and he dumped out and pawed through all my stuff, and Nelson wasn't there to meet us. And when he finally came, but it was dark, and the baby was Mariah, and she is now 17, 16. She didn't remember her grandma, and she was crying. And when we got to the house, this road was so rocky, it was rocks like cantaloupes in the road, and everybody was blowing their horn. You know, we don't do that here, but they'd go fast and blow their horns at each other. Finally got to their house, and he had built the house out of scrap material from the army base, and there was no windows in it, and it was burglar bars. But you know how burglar bars are, you can't get through them. They're and about that high up concrete, and then the bars went up to the rest of the building. When we got to the door, they had 2 Rottweilers that were bigger than me. And they came to that door and saw these strange people. And God, I was scared to death. I said, what have I done? You know.
Thought you were dinner, not.
I sure did.
Dinner.
So they called the dogs down, and we had a meal, and then everything quietened down. And the dogs, there wasn't any bathroom door. It was made with canvas inside. Heavy army canvas surrounded the bathroom. The shower was crude. They had a toilet. But the dog's watering pan was in the bathroom. And in the middle of the night, I had to go, and you had to sleep with a mosquito net around you. And it was a 17-foot, it was 27 foot across, but it was divided, and their room was bigger than ours, but we slept in the small end, Chan and I, way down, and they had a TV in theirs. So anyhow, I had to go to the toilet, and the steps were made out of metal, and there was cracks in them. You could see the light. Hello? No?
Remember she told me that story. She doesn't like
Say that again. Yeah? Yeah, I know it. Oh, get out of here. I'm good. Tell me your number and I'll call you right back. Now I'm being televised right now. Yeah. Okay, I still love you. Bye. Happy Easter. That was my poor little crippled boyfriend. He's 62 and he's had a stroke about 7 years ago. And he wanted to have something to do. When I get out of this, he said, when I get out of here, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a difference in the world, do something for the Lord. And I said, Jerry, you can do it now. He said, what can I do? Just what? I said, you can do telephone ministry.
Yeah, that's great.
So he's been doing that. Everybody that's sick or at church that's lonesome, and
Give him a call.
he does. But he's not happy at home.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not happy with him, and they just got a divorce. But they're still living there, but you know. Oh, let me see, I'm back to Panama, aren't I?
You were going to the restroom in the middle of the night.
Yes, and the cracks were in the steps. So I saw my way down, and when I got to the bottom step, there was this huge drop bottom, and he escorted me to the bathroom. Well, it's a good thing I just had a bladder spasm, because I never could have done the rest of it, I'll tell you that. I didn't stay in there long. But by the next morning, they were friendly.
Well, that's good.
And
And they had iguanas running around the house?
up in a tree, and I stayed out every morning and sunned myself, and I sunned my legs because I wanted them nice and brown for the summer. And the end of this story's coming soon, because when we got home, Desert Storm had just ended, and one of my little neighbor boys, Nicky Fontaine, was coming home that very day. So the whole neighborhood went up to Burger King corner and had a parade and escorted him all the way to the Baptist church, and his house is right there. And we were waving and talking and having a wonderful time, and all of a sudden, I was proud of myself because I had a short wraparound skirt, pretty green color. And I looked down at my legs. Janie was with me, and they were just as scaly as any alligator ever was. Every bit of my tan had peeled up, and it was just, and I didn't know it was like that. I never can do anything and enjoy it. It just turned sour on me. Well, that was one good trip, and another, I guess my next favorite one was going to Jerusalem. and sat down in Rome, of course, and had a 3-hour wait, and we got to look over things at the airport, and then we flew to Tel Aviv, and then we took a 7-day trip all around Jerusalem. And the hotel was sumptuously nice. Food was delicious. Every day we'd take about a 100-mile trip out into a different direction to see all the places. But the eating places over there are, well, then it's been, what, 10 years. You didn't see any women, and there were just make two shelters where they had because there weren't people, it was just tourists that were driving busloads of people, and the war was still the Israelis and Palestinians. There was roadblocks, and they stopped one day, and they were going to make us all get off, and the bus driver, the women, when they had guns too, and he talked them out of making us get off, that we were good guys. But it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But we knew how much money, and the money exchange, and I had my coins, and I went to pay. What I got was $5 worth, and it wasn't worth, but that's what it was. And these greasy old long hands, all men do no women, just they'd hand you your plate, put the stuff, and I got to the cash register, and he said $10, and I said, oh no, it's $10. About 3 times he said that. I gave him $10 and got out of there. I was scared of him. And other than that, and then we saw the Dead Sea, and went to the Jordan River and got some holy water to bring home in a Coke bottle, and just everything was wonderful. The weather was good. It's a little bit cold. And we had a 3-day stay in Rome when we got back. So we got a good tour. Got to see the Pope, and of course the Vatican. It was just beautiful. And I met some Hungarian people coming down the steps in where the painted ceilings is, cathedral.
Sistine Chapel.
Sistine Chapel. And when I heard them talking, I mentioned it to them, and they looked at me so funny, and he wanted to know that I said about Magyar, and I said, yeah, I knew you were speaking Hungarian. And they were so surprised. Where was I from? And they were just tourists from wherever. I didn't even ask them where they were from. But then I guess the next best trip after that would have been the one to the 11 national parks. It was a 3-week tour. Now that was something special. Yeah. And so then I've had a lot of smaller ones, lesser ones. Disney World, and the one you were asking about, world events. We went to Disney World, and we were going to SeaWorld, but anyway, we had been shopping in the morning, and we were going to SeaWorld that afternoon. And some of the girls got off at the mall to shop, and Bunny and 2 men from Summerdale, 3, said they came to see the Challenger take off, and they weren't going to be stuck in a building somewhere. So they sat out in front of the motel. And we got back and left the rest of them off at Morrison's, and just as we were stepping back on the bus, the bus driver said, there she goes. And she went up, and we were excited. We all jumped out and looked, and just in a flash, it made these crazy 2 loops. And I said, look at there, it looks like a bunny's head, bunny's ears, and it was. And then we got in all happy and got back.